Hello, welcome or welcome back. My name is Jo. So, I have been learning Spanish for going on 6 years now in various levels of intensity. So, I feel like I have a truly absurd amount of Spanish resources stored away in my bookmarks, in my mind. So, we have here a basic full routine to learn Spanish completely for free. So there are a lot of great resources that you can get through memberships, which can be really, really cost effective and totally worth it. But we're not going to cover those. This is all going to be all things that you truly can use completely for free. Starting out with listening, because I do think that that's kind of the core thing that most people need to spend the most amount of time on in order to improve in Spanish. I have 4 YouTube channels here that I think are stellar. There are so many more, so it's really important to just find the ones that appeal to you, that make content that you enjoy watching. But I have 2 kind of produced channels that are multiple people that are Easy Spanish and Dreaming Spanish. Both of these have super beginner content, but I do think Dreaming Spanish has more super easy content, and Easy Spanish is a little bit more tips towards advanced, but they both have all levels kind of represented in the content. Then as far as individual content creators who make comprehensible Spanish content, my favorites are Español con ELE, who is Mexican, and Spanish After Hours, who is Spanish, like from Spain. So we have representation here of all kinds of different Spanish dialects, all kinds of different topics. So this is a good place to start. But as I said, you have to find the ones that you're going to be able to enjoy if this is a resource that you want to continue using. Obviously, you don't have to use YouTube, but it's a great free resource. Now, for podcasts, I have beginner recommendations and intermediate recommendations. Beginner, my 2 recommendations are Cuéntame, which is the best podcast that I have found for really quite beginner. Obviously, this is going to sound difficult if you have no exposure to Spanish whatsoever, but she does, as she's telling whatever kind of story in really slow, clear Spanish, she does define some words for you. But yeah, this is my best beginner podcast recommendation. Also, Babbel has a lot of really good beginner and intermediate Spanish podcasts. They don't seem to be actively making any of them anymore, as far as I can tell, but there are still all of the episodes up on whatever podcast app you use, or actually I think even on the Babbel app itself. There are some really good ones. There's some different news ones, story ones, there's a mystery, and I did use these quite a bit when I was a beginner. For intermediate, again, we have a Mexican Spanish podcast and a Spain Spanish podcast. The Spain Spanish podcast is Hoy Hablamos, a very, very prolific podcast, and they do have a whole program online where you can pay to access additional material, but you can also just tune in for the podcast, and this is definitely an upper intermediate, or they have a basic version for more beginner, lower intermediate. And the Mexican Spanish podcast is called Hay Tos. And I really wish that I had listened to this podcast more when I was more of a lower intermediate. For some reason, when people mentioned this podcast, I was thinking of a different podcast, which I won't name, but I had tried that one before and I really strongly disliked it. So whenever people told me this name, I was like, ew, no, I don't like that. But I was thinking of the wrong one. This one is good. So, because I wasn't listening to it at the time, it's not something I've listened to hundreds of episodes of, but the ones that I have listened to is really great. So those, again, are the more intermediate 2 that I definitely recommend checking out. Then, secondly, we will talk about reading. For nonfiction reading, we have news and we have articles about specific topics. For news, I recommend the app Newsela, which is aimed at English learners, but it does have Spanish articles as well. And you can just sign up and access it within the app without being part of a class or anything like that. And the thing that I really like about this app, it is a little bit more advanced, again, not going to be for complete beginners, but you can change the level of lexile difficulty, the level of how advanced the article is within the article. So instead of searching through different articles to find like beginner articles, intermediate articles, etc., you can actually just make the article easier. Usually the lower ones are somewhere around 500, and that's still like an advanced beginner level, I would say, but it is a really great resource. The one for more reference articles would be Hablacultura. And this one also has articles at many different levels about a bunch of different topics. So it includes some amount of like vocabulary as well, or obviously you can just look things up while you're reading it. For fiction stories, we have the Spanish Experiment. And this is something I highly recommend. They don't have a ton of stories on here. They have more stories on the paid version, which is called the Fable Cottage. But for free, they do have a number of stories available that are really, really cute, really fun to read. They have translations available within there, and they have audio as well that is really good. It's not like a machine or anything. And so highly, highly recommend this. Then there's a series of books called Txano y Oscar, that this author has decided to do like a basically freemium version of his book series. So you can get the first 2 books for free as ebooks on his website. So that is a great opportunity to get some native Spanish children's literature for free. Then once you are getting into a more intermediate level, I highly recommend Webtoons or other web comics, usually available for free or maybe from watching some ads. But yeah, great source of free material to read. Of course, you can use news websites and that sort of thing, or especially ones aimed at kids, but those are going to be getting quite advanced. Lessons. So this is probably where you're going to want to start if you have zero exposure to Spanish, and there are 3 things that I highly recommend for basically instruction. It could be grammar, it could be vocabulary, whatever, but it's more of guided instruction. The first one, it's very a typical recommendation, but it's a typical recommendation because it's so good, and that is SpanishDictionary.com. So this is not just a dictionary, they have lessons. So they have kind of a holistic course, which is very similar to like a Duolingo tree, where they are incorporating different topics, and it's kind of all of the things together, like you're studying grammar and vocabulary and all of that. So you can do that to start from zero. They also have specific grammar courses. So they have a whole like sequence that goes from the very beginning to advanced grammar topics, and you can just choose which one you want to do and jump around. You can search for specific things that you are trying to study and do the lessons associated with that. There's video lessons, there's quizzes, there's articles. Really, this is like basically almost an all-in-one resource. Some lessons that I find more entertaining than the Spanish dictionary ones, no offense, but are not quite as comprehensive of a course are the lessons from Profe de ELE. So this is actually designed as a companion for Spanish teachers. So it doesn't have like any kind of cohesive like do this lesson, then do this lesson, because they are supposed to be complementary and they are targeted at specific levels, but it's quite general. But these are so good. High quality, high production value lessons, and it's all available completely for free. So cannot recommend Profe de ELE enough. And then my final recommendation for this category is again a complimentary resource, and it is the grammar articles on Lingolia. So they do have grammar exercises, but you get a random free exercise per day. But other than that, all of the exercises are paid. But I think the strength of Lingolia is really in the articles, which you do not have to pay for. Again, this is something that it would be hard to use as a sole resource because it would be completely possible, and if you've learned a lot of languages before, it would probably be very doable. But if you are starting out as a complete beginner, I think it would be really overwhelming, and it would probably be better to use these as a supplement. So say you're doing some other course, you're doing the Spanish dictionary, you find a topic that you want a little bit more clarity on, you search that topic on Lingolia, read the articles, and you get a little bit more of an understanding. So definitely recommend it for that purpose. Now we get to output. These are obviously the hardest things to do as a self-studier, doing writing and speaking practice. Very difficult to get in a good habit of that and get feedback enough on that. So for writing, I have 2 resources that I strongly recommend. One of them is the website Journaly, and this is for any language, or at least anyone that is supported. You can post a writing sample and get corrections, and obviously you should correct other people's in your languages that you speak, as you know, giving back to the community. But you do not have to pay. There is an option to support the creator, but it is free to use, and so that one is really, really great. Then there's also a subreddit called WriteStreakES, and this one, you know, obviously is designed to have a write streak, but no one's gonna like be mad at you if you don't maintain the streak, and it's another option to get corrections on your writing. Then for speaking, definitely the most difficult thing. Unless you are really good at making friends, you can always check to see if there is a meetup in your area. Meetup.com has a lot of Spanish exchange meetups, and some of them are virtual, so you can also check even for major cities that you wouldn't actually be able to travel to, but see if a city that's in your time zone has a virtual meetup that you could join. But my other recommendation is the app HelloTalk, but not in the typical exchange sense, because I just have not had good luck with that. I know some people have, and that's great. So if you want to try messaging people and trying to get more of a conversation partner, then obviously that's ideal. That would be like the best alternative. But I personally have never had good luck with that. So I recommend using their 2 features that are called moments or rooms. So moments are basically like your Facebook wall. Like, I don't know if that's still what they call it. I haven't had Facebook in years. But you make posts that are either text or voice posts, and people can see those and comment on them. So you could make a post with a voice note and basically ask for corrections, or at least either way you're still getting the practice in, whether people correct you or not. And rooms are just voice rooms. So you could join an existing voice room or make your own voice room, and there you get practice, obviously. Those are the best options that I have found for practicing speaking completely for free. The last thing is kind of a supplementary thing, which is honestly something that I don't normally do, but some people really, really swear by: dedicated vocabulary practice. So if you are interested in that, there are like dozens, hundreds probably, of videos about how to set up really, really elaborate like Anki decks or other vocabulary things. The 2 things that I recommend if you're not interested in something super intensive would be Clozemaster, which again is a freemium app. As of right now, at least, you can use it for free and review or do 30 cards a day. So it's not gonna, you know, you're not gonna be like making lightning fast progress through a deck with 30 cards a day, but it is still something to do to kind of keep up that conscious practice. So Clozemaster specifically uses this style where you are finishing a sentence, like there's a word missing from a sentence, and you are filling in that gap either through a multiple choice or through typing the word. And so it's a little bit more context-based than just a word-based flashcard. My other recommendation is using SpanishDictionary.com for flashcards. So they do have just that very traditional like picture flashcard. And so the reason that I would recommend this, even though technically I don't really like it because you are learning things completely kind of out of context, is it is so seamless to do. You can look up the word, just instantly make a flashcard of it. You can make specific decks. They have pre-made decks. The flashcards have the built-in audio that they use on their website of the real people. Many of the flashcards, not all of them, but many of them have photos. So it is just so seamless that I do end up making quite a few decks on there. I don't usually end up finishing reviewing them all, but it's something that I do use occasionally, and I think it's really good if you are looking for that really seamless use case. So there we have it. That is completely free, pretty much full routine to get from beginner to somewhere around intermediate Spanish. Obviously, as I said, many of these you will need to branch out and find your own preferred resources, but this is definitely enough to get started. And so good luck learning Spanish in the new year if that is your goal, and I will see you in the next video.